Whiskey Snob here for another whiskey review. And today I have a really popular whiskey in the whiskey industry, and even if they're not whiskey connoisseurs, everybody's heard of this. It's going to be the Macallan 12-year double cask aged. And this is a tough one to talk about because it is a very, very popular whiskey. But let's take a dig at it here. So, little history on the Macallan distillery. They're either the only or one of the only distilleries in Scotland that actually has a very specific person with the title Master of Wood. His name is Stuart McPherson. And so Macallan prides itself on the cask selection. So they are basically like 90% about their cask selection. And that's something that very intriguing for a lot of different reasons, and that's why Macallan is so popular to this day. Aside from that, they also have amazing marketing. They do a great amount of taste testings and stuff like that. They give away free cups when they do their bottling and whatnot. So they do a lot of stuff that gets them the popularity for sure. Another thing that is unique to Macallan is that they actually have the smallest stills in Scotland. So where they distill their whiskey is actually, their stills are curiously small is what most people describe them as. And that's something that apparently gives Macallan a very unique smoothness to it as it goes down. So. Another thing about Macallan, I'm not even 100% sure about this one, so don't quote me on it. Maybe look it up first. But I believe they introduced a lot of the labeling on the Scotch side of the industry. Like single malt, I believe they started putting single malt on the label, and that kind of created a bloom of other distilleries putting single malts on their labeling. However, one of the issues that I personally find with the Macallan is a couple things that I don't like about Macallan. Number one, their highest price point whiskey is typically a non-age stained whiskey. That just doesn't really sit right with me. You know, it kind of blows me away that they can charge $400, $500 for a bottle that has no age statement. And it's just selected casks, and that the way that it was done that gives them that price point. A lot of people say that Macallan is really, it's a good whiskey from what I've heard, but apparently you are definitely paying for the name brand. So that's something that I want to uncover today, is if that's true, if you really are paying for the name brand. So that's actually a really cool lid. Yeah, that's really neat. I thought that there was a cover around the cork, but the cork is just fully built in with the lid. There's actually nothing that seals this in like a regular Scotch would have. So definitely a little unique there. So the Macallan 12, the other thing about this is I believe this is aged in European and American oak casks that were first filled with sherry. And I believe the way Macallan does that is that they fill it with sherry, their own sherry. They select their cask, they fill it with their sherry, then they drain it, and then they use their own barrels that they've aged their own sherry in to age their whiskey. So that's kind of something neat as well. They do a lot of stuff like that that's kind of unique and interesting. And yeah, you know, I definitely don't hate on Macallan. Personally, I would never spend $400 on a Macallan bottle just because there's typically no age statement on there. My most recent interaction with Macallan, I was in the whiskey drop, and somebody had suggested the Macallan Rare Edition, blah, 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 blah. It was a $500 bottle, and I said, oh, okay, so like, what's the age statement on that? And she goes, well, it doesn't say on the bottle. I'm sure it says on the box. We read it around. There was no age statement. It didn't tell you any information. Very limited amount of information on a $400 bottle. So yeah, their marketing's amazing, but looking at this bottle, I don't see anything fancy here. It doesn't give you a lot of information. It's not a especially unique bottle. I mean, it's fairly basic, but for me, it's not really the bottle, and it's not about the name brand either, so I'm going to jump into this and see what all this hype's about, the Macallan. That is really nice on the nose. It's very fruity and floral, but it's subtle as well. There's no really sharp notes on the nose at all. Nothing that really makes me want to back this away from the nose, so I don't know if that has to do with their small stills or whatever it is, but yeah, definitely good on the pleasantness of this. Definitely orange, like orange peel, a little bit of I want to say chocolate. Alright, I'm going to dive into the palate here, and on the nose, so far nothing that has overwhelmed me or made me say, you know, that my mind's changed in any way, but let's see what the palate brings. It's really nice on the palate. It's got a lot of apple, very apple. It's kind of like a ripe green apple. There's something else going on there. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but it's very fruity, and not a whole lot else going on there, to be honest. Maybe some honey and some toffee. I think that's what I'm getting, is kind of like a sponge cake, like a lemon sponge cake. That's the flavor that I was getting there, is like a lemon sponge cake. So you definitely get kind of a breadiness to it as well. And again, on the nose, there's definitely nothing special there. Nothing that's blowing me away in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, let's see on the palate again. Let's see if something else pops out. It's nice. It's not bad, but I actually want to do a quick comparison. One more thing I'm going to mention is that Macallan actually classifies their whiskey, and they make it very obvious on all of their labels and almost any kind of marketing they do. They always say Highland single malt. It's not a Highland. I'm not sure why they keep saying Highland single malt. It's a very clear Speyside whiskey, in my opinion. The location of it, from what I can remember, is it's well in the Speyside category, so I have no idea how they are still... I mean, legally they don't have to say anything, that's the thing. There is no legal limits to the labeling of Highland Speyside category. With that being said, I'm going to compare this to one of my cheap Speysides. Okay, so this is a way lesser known Speyside here. This is the Balvenie 14 year. I've done a review on that if you want to check that out on my channel below as well. But the reason I'm doing this is I want to do a quick comparison between the Macallan 12 and the Balvenie 14. So these guys are all about their cask maturation, and Balvenie is as well. So let's see which one of these guys has kind of made it better, in my opinion. Because the Macallan's raved about, and I am really not seeing anything that's blowing me away. So I just want to do a quick comparison, see if there is anything I can pick out of the Macallan that really makes it stand out. So let's go ahead and dive into Balvenie. Let's start off with Balvenie. It's definitely got much sharper notes on the Balvenie, but it's very vanilla and just coffee and cake, and it's very pleasant. They're very similar, honestly. The Balvini's much more sharp on the nose for sure, a little more sharp on the palate. So the Macallan's smooth. I'll definitely give it a thumbs up in that category. The Macallan's smooth. And I mean, there's a lot of cool movies of, like I think James Bond drinks Macallan and blah, 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 blah. So once again, great marketing. They get them in movies. But it's not a terrible whiskey. I would not recommend spending $400 on the Macallan, on any Macallan, to be honest with you. They're not, in my opinion, they're definitely not a luxury whiskey, and I can't believe they define themselves as that, because there's nothing special about this whiskey. There's nothing special about the bottle. The name brand is definitely what you're paying for, in my opinion. By no means is it a bad whiskey, and if you can get it for the right price, then definitely pick it up. Like, I picked up my bottle here in Edmonton, Alberta. I picked this up for $75, and usually I see it for about $95 to $100. So if you can get it for $75, definitely do it. It's definitely a good whiskey for $75. Anything more, and 75 is even pushing it, anything more, I would not spend on a Macallan, that's for sure. So I know with that being said, I've disappointed a lot of people, and I've also made a lot of people laugh with my my suggestions and whatnot on these. But yeah, if you have somebody that you want to introduce to whiskey, get them the Macallan 12 year if you can find it for the right price, because it's a great introduction. It's smooth and it's friendly, and you have fruit notes, you have a little bit of butterscotch, you have a little bit of like candy, and yeah, not bad for $75. And that's everything from me here today, guys. So if you enjoyed my video, please hit that thumbs up. If you have any recommendations on anything you want me to do in the future, any suggestions for my videos, please leave them down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys for my next whiskey review. Other than that, guys, sláinte, and have a good night.